I want to start this off with telling you how much I appreciate you, and I want to do it in a dialogue form so you can just have the dialogue experience.
Cool.
So, is now a good time to give you an appreciation dialogue?
Sure. Thanks for asking.
So, we got to look each other in the eyes and take 3 deep breaths. Leah, I appreciate you for being a positive role model in my life at a time where I was transitioning between Um, being like a gig to gig actor and wanting to be more entrepreneurial, you were that person who provided that stepping stone and guidance and mentorship for me.
Let me see if I got that. You are grateful for me and our relationship at a time in your life where you were transitioning from something that you said gig to gig.
Yeah.
To me, that implies, you know, you were hustling, but it didn't feel consistent and stable. It felt like a little bit exhausting, not nourishing. And now, um, our relationship lasted through that time to this time where you are very grounded and you do feel very supported. And you're grateful for our relationship during that process.
Yeah. And you said, did I get that?
Did I get that?
Yes, you did. And now you say, is there more?
Is there more?
There is more. I didn't have many women who were role models growing up, especially in our family. I feel like a lot of people didn't really there were some people who accomplished things, but they weren't around if they did. So, yeah, it was really refreshing meeting you and seeing the way that you grew and nourished Launch and seeing the way you brought people into your community. And it really felt like, wow, this is somebody who's figured it out. Like, you you can grow a business, you can have extracurricular activities, you can take care of your family, you can take care of your workers. Like, you really feel like a holistic kind of person, and I really appreciated meeting you and getting to spend time and getting to know you.
The type of female role models that were around you weren't these entrepreneurial kind of people. And so, meeting me and seeing how I do entrepreneurism, which involves a lot of family and a lot of other things, keeping my life balanced, that was such a gift to see it, because when you see it, then you know you can achieve it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Did I get that?
Yes, you got that.
Is there more?
There's much more, but that's the gist of it.
All right. Well, that feels like a lot of love. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. And I say thanks for listening. And then we hug it out if we were in person, but we can't.
Okay.
We do a little high five.
Okay. And you call that an appreciation dialogue?
Yes, because, we don't tell each other enough how much we appreciate each other. It's a tool we can use to just simply make sure people know we love them. And then the mirroring part is like, you really have to receive that and be like, let me see if I got that. And when you say it back, you have to really take it in, right?
The thing that I wanted to say back, right, were the feelings I was having, which is, it may look that way, but things are not always perfect. They're not always in balance. And you've seen me at times where I've been stressed or whatever. So I guess it immediately feels like a little bit of unworthiness.
Yeah.
I want to share more of the story. That's part of the story that you see from the outside.
Yeah.
But there's always an inside.
I really want to talk about the inception of how it all came to be and the struggle of birthing something, literally.
It literally is like birthing. You're right. I think that struggle has been a big part of my story. I mean, I actually can't imagine someone who doesn't feel like they had a lot of struggle in their life, because we all have problems. We're all human. And whether the struggle is something really tangible and obvious, maybe a financial struggle, maybe you didn't have a family growing up, maybe you had one but they didn't have means, or maybe you had means but didn't feel much like a family inside the house. We all have stuff. I would say one of my earliest struggles has always been the physical, because I want to say I was like 9, And I remember going to school for the beginning of a new school year, and I realized how different I was because the other girls showed up and they were trying to do cartwheels and showing dance moves. And the year before, my memory had always been like, are we going to play kickball or softball or,
Yeah.
go get dirty at recess?
Yeah.
And so I was very aware that I was a little different in that sense. And then my brain immediately went to, well, I look different, you know? And so maybe that's like where those differences come from, because I never pictured myself as someone doing a bunch of cartwheels like a cheerleader. Like that wasn't, I pictured myself as the young heroine. Shira, Princess of Power.
Yes. Yes. How powerful is that? That's way better in my opinion.
But
That
anyway,
it's spinning, it's like sitting on your throne, watching everyone else spin, you know?
well, it just made me aware I was different. And as a kid, I had no perspective. And so being different is scary. And it's like, oh, there's something wrong with me. And maybe I should be like everybody else. And so that sort of started a long relationship with body dysmorphia and image issues, and fashion is a natural, and fashion and beauty is a natural way to play that out, because then I can change a lot of the ways that I look by what I wear and how I present myself. And it was a very natural place for me to take that struggle, because when my family immigrated from Greece, not the side we're related on, but the other side of the Greek immigrants, they had a family dry cleaners. So tailoring the way you presented yourself, being clean and put together outfits, that was a big part of our family's story, because it's how they survived in America when they, came as refugees. So that was my first sort of real struggle, and at the same time, the beginning of the dance that led to launch.
Wow. So this was back in like elementary, middle, high school though,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So when you were seeing everybody do cartwheels and you were like, yeah, I don't think that's me. And then that led to body dysmorphia. And I can relate to that, by the way. Mine wasn't so much seeing other people, it was just seeing a lot of obesity in our family and then
Mhm.
having my parents call us fat all the time.
Oh my gosh.
Sent me into an eating disorder and starving myself. And so to make sure I never, got like what they didn't want or whatever. So
Generational trauma is real.
totally, yeah. So that definitely runs in our lineage somewhere. But it's cool that you expressed it through like dressing in different ways and styling yourself in
Yeah.
ways. And I similarly, I think I did that too when I was like modeling. I started, yeah, I was designing clothes on my first artistic endeavor, and I started modeling and being all, different characters because I was just so uncomfortable with myself.
Yeah.
Um,
Me too.
but yeah.
I was a theater kid.
Oh yeah, you were. Yeah, you
Right.
were.
Right up my alley, man.
Cool. You turned your pain into purpose, and I think that's something that everyone should strive to do. Like we always talk about like the obstacle is the way. If you hate yourself, you got to go through that to find, the gold, which for you was launched.
There's that old country song, when you're going through hell, keep on going. Like as we go through these struggles, there will always be highs and lows. There are more lows ahead of me, I'm sure, but we just keep on going, and then we have greater perspective. We have greater experience. We have greater connections, which usually means support. And there are times I don't feel like going, and I sit down and thank God for the support, because then people remind me, keep on going. I think one of the things that you had asked me, and I answered, the struggle of fear over faith being the big, I think that's just like a universal thing. And whether you talk about launch, or whether you talk about family relationships, or whether you're talking about dating and romantic and getting married and starting a family of our own, like it's always this battle of, I'm afraid of something, which is real. We don't ignore that. We
Yeah.
check in with ourselves, and we try to find where the faith is, so we know where to take the next step.
In the conversation of fear over faith,
Yeah.
whether it be starting a family, starting a business, there is a fear, and it's always a real legitimate fear, but it's like choosing faith to get through that and to ask for guidance for the next step to get through that fear is
Exactly.
how you like to operate. Did I get that?
You nailed that.
Is there more to that?
That's it. You got it.
No, I can imagine being an entrepreneur, you had to choose faith over fear like every step of the way, every single day.
Well, I mean, there are some days I didn't, right? I definitely learned lessons, some hard lessons,
Mm,
because I would let fear sort of dictate my choices. One was when we first opened, I brought in the apparel that I was really familiar with, which was pretty much European designers. And I saw that, many people would stop in regularly and they didn't always want to buy a European piece because they're generally a little more expensive, 100, 200, $300. And so if you're just popping in just to pop in, you want to have a quick, dopamine hit of a purchase. So the fear of losing those sales because I wanted to convert those customers led me to buying some inexpensive sunglasses, some inexpensive clothing lines, and ultimately they were not good investments for me, and I learned from it. And I learned also, Leah, you didn't really want to buy that. You reacted, and that's fine. Lesson learned. Can we please not do it again?
wow. That's great. It's like the jump from being the reactor, or almost like things are happening to me, to like I am creating my reality. Like I always can choose correctly if I'm
Yeah.
alert, alert and thinking,
Yeah, and honestly, online was the gift because that pressure of fulfilling the needs of the person walking in the door is totally relieved when I
mm,
could just go online and show what I have and let people find me, and they do. So it's a
mm.
very different experience of retail than I was used to, because instead of just trying to serve my immediate community, now it's more about promoting, sharing, communicating what I have, and letting the community find me.
So it's more of attracting your customers versus like hunting for them.
For sure.
It's very actually feminine. Feminine is very much like I attract, and masculine
Mhm.
is like I go get it. So
Oh, yeah.
that was a big lesson you learned when you felt desperate for a customer. But what was underneath that?
Getting back to sort of this body image stuff, what I've learned is that for a lot of people who suffer from compulsions or addictions or things, that they're kind of out of their control, is that when you don't feel good on the inside, you go looking for external gratification.
Pause. When you don't feel good on the inside, you go looking for external gratification.
Correct. And, in balance, that's not an inherently bad thing, but it's very difficult to keep in balance, and it often can become a very bad thing. So, what that meant for me is I used, the way I dress to sort of get attention, propel me certain places that turned into working at the Gap. And that desire to get that recognition from my bosses, from the people I worked with, from even regular customers, it drove me to be very successful at that job. And I loved it. I mean, it really worked. It was a nice relationship, in the sense that I I did a good job. People were happy. They came back to me, those sorts of things. I wasn't particularly fulfilled. I wasn't doing this on like a deep level, but I was just doing the best I could. And so that gave me a lot of experience. By doing that, I ended up at the biggest Gap store in the whole world. I learned so much. We had over 400 employees. There were 9 managers. And not everybody worked every day, right? But on a busy Saturday, that store would see 13,000 customers walk in the doors. Because we were the biggest store, the corporate offices were on the second and third floors of our building. And so when the, you know, big wigs would come down, it was our job as the managers to know all those numbers. This is how many, what's the traffic number? Did you hit 13,000 today? Or we at 8,975? What's the sales today? What were the sales yesterday? Was that an increase or a decrease? By how much? What's our goal for today? How are we setting things up for tomorrow? So we had to have all these numbers. Every day there were different set of numbers, and you had to have them on the short recall. So it taught me a lot about the business. And that is, like I said, what one of the big influences that colored how I first opened Launch, because I was trying to use the data of people coming in to make my decisions. And that was what I'd learned. I came about that honestly. So I think the question you asked was, like a struggle and how I overcame it. It was luck and hard work. I just never stopped working. And the luck, which is gonna sound like a strange word to use, is for the pandemic. Nobody could foresee that coming. It didn't feel lucky at the time, but it gave me an opportunity because I still wanted to get up and do something. So I still worked at home and tried to find ways to make the business better. And that really ended up playing out online. And then I could learn so much. And I had the space and the time to say, wait a minute, I'm going to shift our focus. We're going to have the same company, the same ideals, the same brands, but we're going to approach it in a better way. And ever since that has happened, what's been built has really been great. And I really honestly hope and pray to continue that kind of mindful growth, mindful investment of, where are we spending money? How are we approaching things? How are we communicating with our community? How transparent are we? I think that's really important.
So many great things happened out of the pandemic,
Yeah,
for a lot of people. But, in the time we were all like, this is the worst thing in the world. And now we're hearing the stories come out, and like, this is
right.
just one of those stories. It's like, wow, look, you put in the work and you really made it happen.
Well, yeah, and it's also really wild because if you would have asked me on April 1st, 2020, does this feel like luck? I'd been like, this is my worst nightmare. It's the hindsight. It's after having gone through it, I can see how that terrible thing was actually a huge gift. So it's weird. There's that old Chinese proverb. Have you heard this of the farmer whose son falls off the horse and breaks his leg? And the villagers say, oh, what bad luck. Your son fell off the horse. He broke his leg. Like, you're not going to have any help in the field. And the farmer says, we'll see. And then the army comes to town and they don't take the farmer's son because his leg is broken and he doesn't go to war. And so everybody says, oh, you're so lucky. Your son broke his leg. He's not in the army. And he said, we'll see. Because we just don't know, right? We don't know how things are going to play out. So when we think we're going through the worst of it, if you can find that faith to say, what do I need to do today? How can I show up for myself today? And that's going to be enough. If you can find that faith and if you can do that, more will be revealed.
We'll see.
I'm just so lucky. Like I had this lovely customer who appreciated the service and the business. She was an online customer that we had given her, and so she had to return something like 2 or 3 months ago. And in the return, she'd put a bag of Twizzler candies.
Mm.
And when I opened the return, I had the 18-year-old Cooper who's working with me there and the security guard for our shopping area, this very large, very serious man. We're in there and I said, oh, you guys want some Twizzlers? So I'm not going to eat a pack of Twizzlers by myself.
I would.
He loved it and he was so happy and I let her know. It was so appreciated. And then I wrote something about it in one of our customer emails earlier this year. I was just saying, we're so lucky. You guys are the best. We get returns with bags of licorice in them. Like, how did I get this amazing community?
Can you give me the top three things you think it took to build that community that gives you licorice in your return bags?
I don't mean to keep saying this because I don't mean to beat a dead horse because whatever. Faith.
Hey.
Faith, returning to faith, self-care,
Mm.
and the third piece is this commitment to give everybody the best I've got whenever I encounter them. So if we only have 2-minute interaction, I'm going to give you the best 2 minutes I got.
You feel like that, actually.
What
There's
do you
this,
mean?
you feel like you do that. And I learned when I started teaching yoga, I learned that principle, but I didn't always carry it into just everyday interactions. I would only do it in the room, right? Or I would only do it in performances. And you are somebody who feels like you're going to be fully present for however long we're on the phone. You do feel like you really give it all, and that I think is really special, and that's probably exactly why your customers feel the
Yeah.
way about you that they do.
Thank you. I mean, I think that's probably the result of faith and self-care. Because if I
Oh,
take care of myself, I have energy, I have sleep, I have what I need. And if I really try hard to ground myself in faith, then um, what I have prepared to share is usually like pretty good.